In the video game industry, there is a myth that great games are born in bright, modern offices with ping pong tables, espresso machines, and teams of 300 artists. The truth is, some of the most revolutionary pieces of software ever created were birthed in absolute isolation. Solo game development is not a job. It is a psychological marathon. It is 10,000 hours of staring at a blinking cursor in a dark room. It is sacrificing your weekends, your holidays, and your youth to write millions of lines of code, hoping that eventually you can breathe life into a digital universe. You have to sacrifice everything to build a world from scratch. I poured my entire soul into building a masterpiece. I just didn't realize that while I was writing the physics engine for my digital world, my real world was being systematically dismantled by the woman sitting in the next room. My name is Leo. I'm 33 years old, and I am a senior software engineer, but my true passion is independent game development. 6 years ago, I married Sloan. Sloan was a high-energy public relations executive for the tech industry. She was charismatic, incredibly ambitious, and drawn to the neon lights and launch parties of the corporate elite. I was the introverted programmer who preferred the quiet hum of a server rack. We were opposites, but I thought we balanced each other out. For 5 grueling years, I spent every single evening and every entire weekend locked in my home office, building my magnum opus. I called it Project Ether. It wasn't just a game. I had coded a completely proprietary, revolutionary procedural generation engine from the ground up. It could render infinite, photorealistic fantasy worlds with 0 load times. It was a technological holy grail that massive AAA gaming studios spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to achieve. I told Sloan this was our golden ticket. I promised her that when I finally released it, we would be multimillionaires. She wouldn't have to work another day in her life. We could buy a house on the coast and travel the world. I trusted her implicitly with my dream. But Sloan didn't want to wait for an indie developer to release a passion project. She looked at my 5 years of sleepless nights and calloused hands, and she decided she didn't want to share the finish line with me. She wanted to hand the trophy to someone else.
The rot in our marriage started when Sloan's PR firm landed a massive new client, Apex Interactive. Apex was a notorious multi-billion-dollar AAA video game publisher, and their CEO was a guy named Trent. Trent was 42 years old and the absolute poster boy for everything wrong with the modern gaming industry. He wasn't a programmer, he was a ruthless corporate finance guy. He wore $5,000 bespoke suits, drove a matte black Aston Martin, and made his millions by buying up passionate, small independent studios, firing all the original creators, and stuffing their games with predatory microtransactions. In my world, guys like Trent are considered absolute parasites. Suddenly, Sloan was spending all her time at Trent's massive glass and steel headquarters. Crisis management, she called it. The red flags didn't just quietly appear, they flashed like a critical system error on my monitors. First, the profound, unapologetic disrespect. Sloan started actively mocking my 5-year passion project. "Leo, you need to be realistic," she sighed one night, pouring herself a glass of expensive wine Trent had gifted her. "Trent manages 5,000 employees. He ships global blockbusters. You've been sitting in the basement playing with polygons for 5 years and haven't made a single dime. You need to grow up and get a real corporate job." Second, the intense secrecy. Sloan changed the password on her personal MacBook. She started taking phone calls in her car before coming inside the house. When I asked who she was talking to at 11 p.m., she would gaslight me aggressively. "It's Tokyo time zone, Leo. It's business. Stop being so incredibly insecure and controlling." Third, and by far the most alarming, was her sudden, highly specific interest in my network architecture. Sloan, a PR manager who barely knew how to restart a router, suddenly started asking me where the physical backups for Project Aether were stored. She asked if my local server was encrypted and how large the master repository file was. When a corporate PR rep suddenly asks about your source code encryption, you don't answer the question. You run a security audit.
When you write a proprietary game engine worth potentially $50 million, you don't just leave it sitting on a standard hard drive. My entire home network was routed through a custom firewall that logged every single byte of data moving across the local area network. One night at 2 a.m., while Sloan was supposedly sleeping, my phone vibrated with a critical priority alert.
Someone was actively attempting to execute a mass file transfer from my secure development server to an unauthorized external flash drive plugged into Sloane's laptop. I didn't storm upstairs and kick the door open. I simply isolated the connection, paused the transfer, and mirrored her laptop screen directly to my massive monitors in the basement. She had the Slack desktop app open, communicating in a private, locked channel with Trent. I didn't just find an affair. I found a premeditated multi-million-dollar corporate heist. Trent wrote, "My lead technical director looked at the compressed demo build you sneaked out last week. He's losing his mind. The procedural generation engine is 10 years ahead of anything we have in-house. If we launch this as Apex Interactive's new flagship IP at the Global Gaming Expo next month, our stock will double. Do you have the master source code yet?" Sloane replied, her words dripping with a casual, horrifying cruelty that made the blood freeze in my veins. "I'm copying the mod repository from his server right now. The idiot actually thinks I care about his little basement project. As soon as the transfer finishes, I'm handing the drive to you. I'll serve him with divorce papers on Monday. He has no money, no lawyers, and no copyright filings yet. He's just a naive code monkey, Trent. He won't be able to do a thing. I can't wait to move into your penthouse." Trent responded, "You're a visionary, baby. The code monkey is going to buy us our next yacht. Get the drive and get out." I sat alone in the dark, the hum of my servers filling the absolute silence, staring at the glowing monitor as my entire reality shattered into 1,000,000 pixels. My wife of 6 years was sleeping with a corporate parasite. Together, they were actively plotting to steal 5 years of my blood, sweat, and genius, rebrand my life's work as their own, make tens of millions of dollars, and leave me utterly destroyed. They thought I was just a naive code monkey. They didn't understand the level of absolute, unmitigated destruction a senior software engineer is capable of coding.
If you want to destroy a corporate thief, you don't lock the vault. You leave the vault wide open, but you replace the gold bars with highly unstable dynamite. I didn't confront her. If I did, Trent's army of corporate lawyers would bury me in injunctions, claim I stole the code from them, and tie me up in court for a decade until I went bankrupt. I needed them to steal the code. I needed Trent to proudly claim ownership of it in front of the entire world. So, I went to work on the back end. I canceled her file transfer, but I didn't lock her out. Instead, I created a perfectly cloned master repository folder and placed it right on my unprotected desktop. To Trent's lead technical directors, the source code inside would look absolutely flawless. It would compile perfectly. It would run beautifully in their corporate testing environments. But deeply embedded in the absolute foundational math of the procedural generation engine, buried so deep in the physics code that no QA tester on Earth would ever find it, I wrote a logic bomb, a digital kill screen. I programmed the code to ping a hidden external time server. The game would function flawlessly for exactly 30 days, but at exactly 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the day of the Global Gaming Expo, the exact hour Trent was scheduled to debut the game live on stage, the payload would execute. It wouldn't just crash the game to a black screen. A crash can be blamed on a technical glitch. I wanted an execution. I coded the payload to violently hijack the rendering engine. It would forcibly overwrite every single texture, every skybox, and every audio file in the game with a hard-coded script I buried in the registry. I left the rigged folder on my desktop. I allowed her transfer to complete. I listened to the floorboards creak as my wife stole my life's work, thinking she had just pulled off the heist of the century.
When Sloane handed me the divorce papers on Monday morning, she tried to look sympathetic. "I'm sorry, Leo," she lied smoothly, wearing her expensive designer coat. "I just need a man who lives in the real world, not a digital one. You need to let me go." "I understand, Sloane," I said calmly, signing the papers without hesitation. "Good luck in the real world." The moment she moved out, I unleashed hell. I took my original, time-stamped, air-gapped hard drives containing the true source code, my 6 years of developer logs, and my early concept art, and I drove straight to the most ruthless intellectual property litigator in California. We formally registered the true source code with the U.S. Copyright Office, establishing an indisputable, federally protected paper trail of my absolute ownership. Then, I showed my lawyer the Slack messages of Sloan and Trent actively conspiring to steal the code. My lawyer smiled like a shark smelling blood in the water. "Leo," he said, "Apex Interactive is a publicly traded company. If their CEO takes stolen, copyrighted intellectual property and presents it to his shareholders and the public as an in-house asset, that isn't just copyright infringement. That is massive federal securities fraud. He is lying to his investors." We drafted a massive federal lawsuit in a barrage of DMCA takedown notices, but we didn't file them. We waited. We let Apex Interactive spend $20 million on marketing. We let them buy massive billboards in Times Square. We let Trent hype up his revolutionary new in-house engine on every gaming podcast on the internet. They were building a massive, glittering glass castle, and I was holding the only stone.
Friday morning, the Global Gaming Expo in Los Angeles. Trent was the keynote speaker. Over 10,000 journalists and fans were packed into the auditorium, and over 5 million people were watching the live stream on Twitch and YouTube. I sat in my dark home office, eating popcorn, watching the stream on my center monitor. Trent strutted onto the stage to thunderous applause. Sloan was standing in the VIP front row, beaming with pride, waiting for her payday. "Ladies and gentlemen," Trent announced into his headset microphone, his voice echoing across the stadium. "For 5 years, our in-house team at Apex has been working in secret to build the future of gaming. Today, I am proud to present a world without limits. Let's play." He picked up a controller. On the massive 100-foot LED screen behind him, my beautiful game booted up. Trent started walking the character through a stunning, hyper-realistic forest. The crowd was gasping in awe. The Twitch chat was moving so fast it was a blur of excitement. I looked at the clock on my wall. 11:59 a.m. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 10 seconds. At exactly 12 p.m. PST, the time server pinged the logic bomb. On the massive stadium screen, right as Trent was explaining the lighting engine, the game stuttered. A harsh, deafening electronic screech blasted through the stadium's PA system, causing the audience to cover their ears. Trent stopped moving the controller. He looked back at the screen, confused. Looks like we have a slight technical hiccup, folks." It wasn't a hiccup. The beautiful, hyper-realistic blue sky in the game suddenly shattered into fragments of code. The entire skybox violently shifted from blue to a glaring blood-red canvas. The trees and mountains dissolved into falling Matrix-style hexadecimal code. Then the camera forcefully locked. The main character model slowly turned around, breaking the fourth wall, and stared directly out of the screen at Trent and the 5 million people watching. A massive, unavoidable holographic text box materialized across the entire 100-foot screen, flashing in brilliant white letters. "Fatal error, stolen intellectual property. This source code was stolen from Leo last name. Trent last name and Sloan last name committed corporate espionage. Apex Interactive is a fraud." The stadium went dead, pin drop silent. The Twitch chat completely broke. Trent's face turned the color of wet concrete. He frantically mashed the buttons on the controller, desperately trying to exit the game. But my code had locked out the user inputs. The message just kept flashing, over and over, burning into the retinas of everyone in the room. "Cut the feed!" Trent screamed at the production booth, totally unhinged. "Turn off the screen!" But the damage was already done. 5 million people had screenshotted it. I took a slow, deep sip of my coffee, smiled at the frozen Twitch stream, and texted my lawyer, "Execute."
You cannot unring a bell that loud. The fallout was an absolute apocalyptic corporate massacre. Within 10 minutes of the broadcast, Twitter was completely on fire. Gaming journalists dug up the trademark and copyright filings my lawyer had submitted, proving instantly that the game belonged to me, not Apex Interactive. Because Trent had stood on a stage and lied to the public and his shareholders about owning the technology, Apex Interactive's stock price plummeted 60% in a single afternoon. The SEC launched an immediate, devastating investigation into the company for securities fraud and defrauding investors. The board of directors at Apex convened an emergency meeting that same night.
They fired Trent for cause, stripped him of all his stock options, and publicly threw him under the bus to save the company. He was hit with massive federal lawsuits from his own shareholders, completely ruining him financially. Sloane's life was vaporized. Trent, realizing he was facing federal prison, immediately blamed her, telling investigators that she was a rogue PR contractor who had supplied him with stolen files without his knowledge. She called me from a hotel room, sobbing so hard she was hyperventilating. Leo, please, the FBI contacted me. Trent is suing me. You have to tell them you gave me permission to take the files. Please, I'll do anything." "I didn't give you permission, Sloane," I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. "I just left the door open. You're the one who walked in and stole the bomb. Good luck in the real world." I hung up and blocked her number. During our divorce settlement, she had absolutely zero leverage. Because she was facing criminal charges for corporate espionage against me, the judge awarded me 100% of the marital assets and denied her any alimony. She walked away with millions in legal debt and a felony record.
It's been 3 years since that expo. Apex Interactive, desperate to settle my federal copyright lawsuit and avoid total bankruptcy, paid me a $35 million out-of-court settlement just to make the IP lawsuit go away. I kept 100% ownership of my game engine. I took the money, founded my own independent publishing studio, hired a team of incredibly talented, passionate developers, and we officially launched Project Aether last year. It won Game of the Year. I never have to work for a corporate boss ever again. Last I heard, Sloane avoided prison by taking a plea deal, but she is completely blacklisted from the tech and PR industries globally. She is currently working at a kiosk in a suburban mall, selling cheap cell phone cases, watching gamers walk past her playing the game she tried to steal. Trent is still buried in federal litigation, completely bankrupt, living in a cheap rental apartment far away from Los Angeles. If there is a lesson to be learned here, it's this: never try to hijack a digital universe if you don't know the God who coded it. If your partner thinks they can use you as a stepping stone, steal your genius, and leave you to rot in the basement while they take the credit, don't panic. Don't fight them for the hard drive. Smile, hand them the flash drive, and let them confidently load your game in front of the whole world. And right when they think they've won, just wait for the code to compile and watch the kill screen end their game permanently. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments. What's the most satisfying glitch you've ever seen? Stay sharp, trust the code, and always back up your files.